Right. Hello, everyone. I believe we are live now. So, welcome again to another live show from Investing with a Difference. So, today we have a lot of updates. So, we will get started fairly quickly. And I hope that people are trickling in. So, I have a quick introduction. If you're new to our show, so this is our YouTube page, and we have been covering EOS launch as well as what is happening in EOS world for some time now. And these are some of the links which you may be interested in. For example, if you are looking for information, like we have some crypto based Facebook page, we have a Telegram channel where we are building a community for EOS, and we do have a Twitter account. We are slowly getting more and more active on Twitter. And we do have some referral links for you if you're interested in buying altcoins like EOS on Binance, and BitMEX, which allows you to do very like leveraged trading on Bitcoin, EOS, and a lot of other altcoins. And this is only for advanced level traders, so do not try it if you don't understand it. So let's get going without wasting time because we have a lot to cover. So before we jump on, as usual, we look at quickly at Bitcoin price chart. It's looking good. I think after forming the base, it's trying to break out. Unfortunately, it's not yet broken out. It's still showing some resistance in this area between 6,600, 6,500 and $6,600. And as I have been talking about it, let me stretch this area. We do need to cross $6,800 or 6,850 to be precise to really confirm that this move can sustain. So overall, I think what is happening though is that the altcoin market is recovering very fast. So you see that the Bitcoin dominance, which was hitting 53%, is now come down again. And why is that happening? Because a lot of altcoins are moving up, and that also has a good impact on EOS. We were struggling around $4.50 or so, and it has a nice jump to $5.20 now. So it's not a bad move. I think market is showing some momentum. Let us see if it sustains and whether. And as we always talk about, the Bitcoin breakout is needed for this market to recover. So if you look at the EOS chart, it's very similar. I think we are seeing a nice pump here on EOS with respect to Bitcoin. And I think the best thing is the EOS Ethereum chart, which is consistently doing better because all the altcoins were suffering. So we should compare EOS versus Ethereum. And as you can see here, it has not really losing. It's not really losing versus Ethereum. In fact, it's trying to break out from this consolidation zone, which is a good sign. So I think overall, market is trying to recover. We are not out of the bear market yet, but hope that we will be able to get out of this selling pressure soon. So let's get back to EOS now. So we have, as I said before at the start of the video, we have a lot to cover today. But first of all, if you remember, we posted a video yesterday about the proxy voting decay, and we had highlighted in yesterday's videos how the voting decay is affecting the BP selection criteria and so on. So while we are voting for this, we are using this EOS Authority tool. We recommend everybody to enter their account name and find out what is their decay. So for example, this is the decay of investing with a difference account. Of course, we are voting very regularly, so there's no decay, but the proxied account. So yesterday we saw it was almost 23,000 votes. So a lot of people have been allocating their proxy again, and that's how we have reduced this decay. And we recommend everybody to do it. It's very, very simple. So this is what we posted on Twitter as well as in our Telegram channel. If you're using Greymass Wallet, you need to just go to the producer voting tab. You select change voter proxy link and you enter investing WAD if you have chosen us, or you can choose anybody else, and then press confirm. It takes hardly 10 seconds. So we do appeal to everybody who has assigned as proxy to do this at least once a month or more frequently if you can, if you're logging into the Greymass wallet. It doesn't take more than 10 seconds, I can promise you, and it's very important because you do not want to have this decay, and we want to keep impacting the BP selection as much as we can. Now, coming back to the news on EOS, so we have a lot of things we are going to talk about. So first of all, let's start with the Chinese Blockchain Research Institute, which has CCID. And again, they have published a new report. And again, EOS has been rated as #1. by them in terms of they have a lot of criteria in terms of technology, in terms of adoption, and so on. So this is the whole list. If you're interested, so EOS has been actually gained some points. Not only it is number one, it has actually been gaining a lot of points in terms of technology, in terms of adoption and innovation. And this sounds like pretty good progress. It's an institute where I think they have the Beijing University, the Stanford University professor is part of the consulting group. And these guys are trying to do a fair assessment based on the technology, based on how the blockchain technology is evolving. And Ethereum has always been higher on the adoption side versus the technology. I think that's what is happening here. And I do not disagree. While Ethereum has issues technically, they're trying to resolve that, but they have seen better adoption. So that's why they are number two. And the interesting addition here is Komodo, which is gaining a lot of points. I would love to learn more about it. To be frank, I don't know much, but I hear good things about this project. So, but overall, I think for EOS, which we are talking about today, it is a great news. So let's move on to what else is happening. The couple of things I saw from the Telegram channel, and these were highlighted in Twitter feed also. A good news is that Dan has once again confirmed that you will be able to get free accounts once Block.one launches their new app and their services. So it looks like, if you remember previously, also Dan had suggested that they will be launching some kind of a decentralized exchange or some kind of social network, like a next version of Steemit. And they had talked about giving free sign up, like free user account creation, which is a great thing. I think a lot of people have been concerned, while I always have been talking about how it is not a problem. You can, like, for a few dollars, like a $3 or $4, you can right now buy an account. And that is going to last your lifetime if you're using various EOS apps. So it's not too expensive, but if you're still concerned about it, do wait for this. I think what we are hearing is that there is a London hackathon where Dan and Brendan Bloomer and a lot of people, important people, are attending from Block.one. And there may be some good announcements around this area, where they may be launching some new exciting apps, as well as availability of easy to create accounts along with free accounts. So it's a great news. I think let's look at what else is happening. So another item, people have been talking about the RAM, and Dan has highlighted that he supports this increase, and he's talking about dramatic increase in RAM within the next 12 months. And he's actually talking about real hardware and supporting producers with real hardware. So this has been a debate for quite some time. So I think people are kind of split between why you should have real hardware versus cloud. So you'll remember that cloud was very important to get launched very quickly for more and more block producers to come in. But I think most of the stable block producers who are getting voted, they always would like to go with their real hardware because that's always cheaper. And but I think that also comes with the responsibility to make it reliable. So it will be interesting how this plays out. Means I personally, I'm not against using cloud services. Of course, we want more and more reliable real hardware as well going forward. So this is definitely not one of the criteria we are using. But from the RAM perspective, it's very important that there is a real RAM, either real hardware or cloud. It doesn't matter. I think what is more important is the block producer should be able to support real RAM if the utilization start going up. As you understand that when the Block.one starts creating free accounts, there will be a big jump in RAM usage because each account needs around 10 kilobyte of RAM, or at least 4 kilobyte of RAM, let's call it as a minimum. But I don't know how much they will be allocating per user, but you can easily expect a few million people joining in once the free accounts start creating. And if it is a compelling app, Block.one can come out with. So what else is happening? Let's look at some more news. One great thing I came across is this Oracleized service on EOS, which is very great, good addition to the EOS ecosystem. So these guys have been providing easy to use interface. So what you need to understand is most of the decentralized application, they need to maintain a database, and most of these databases are limited. For example, so let's look at this picture which they have shown. So there are a lot of kind of blockchains, and they cannot interact with other blockchains because the data is limited in one blockchain. So what these guys are doing is they're creating an API with off-chain databases which can interact with the various blockchains. And now they've already been working for many years on various blockchains, including Ethereum, Bitcoin, and now they're adding EOS to their ecosystem, which is great. This will help a lot of people port their applications from Ethereum to EOS, and it's going to really help with the ecosystem. So this is great news for EOS. People are not realizing the impact of such developments, and I'm sure that soon we will see more and more people coming and developing apps on EOS. So this is pretty interesting. I just wanted to highlight it. If you are a DApp developers and decentralized application developer, I'm sure you would love this kind of new services. We are yet to see whether they are going to make it free, because EOS is a free transaction system. On Ethereum, of course, they charge you for every transaction when you're using their APIs. And I hope that they can really use the free nature of like free transactions of EOS and make it better. And it will even be a big incentive for people to move to EOS. What else is happening? So I think EOS worker proposal system. So this is a very controversial topic. So I wanted to touch base on this and maybe get some comments from people who are watching this video today. So EOS worker proposal system, as you all know, this is a kind of a fund which was supposed to be created based on the original EOS implementation. In the ideal world, they were looking for around 4%, up to 4%, not necessarily all 4% inflation, but up to 4% of EOS tokens yearly to be allocated to this fund, and which can lead to some kind of initiatives which are community driven, and you can really start developing tools or some kind of enablement of community funds. Now, EOS says this is one of the block producers. They have put together why they are supporting it. So it's worth a good read. I will not go through everything. I will post a link on the YouTube video after we are done with this, or you can search it yourself. They talk about why it is needed. They talk about the plans they are already putting in place. And as I mentioning in my Telegram chat and many other places, I'm not convinced right now that these funds, which are a huge amount of funds, which should be given in hands of few people, or even till we are sure that they are going to be really utilized in a good way. So I've always so they're talking about a very conservative process. So again, as I said, like our channel and we are not here to create polarized views. So I always recommend people to look at both sides of the world. I am not going to say that, oh, I am against this worker proposal funds and we should not do it. While that is my personal opinion, we do need to discuss the pros and cons of everything. So if you look at their proposal system, they're talking about a community-based voting. They're talking about various criteria. And how they will track these funds. So they are actually like trying to do their best to justify of why this is needed. And they are also talking about, they're trying to address the concerns. So we have raised these concerns that whale will vote for personal interest. This is my biggest concern. While they're talking about, this is kind of, like, they do not really want to block the ideas just because of this. They are saying there will be a reviewer system in place and so on. Now, this is the weakest point I think they have in their whole analysis, but I think this is something which needs to be fixed anyway, because even as a selection of block producers, the voting is really not right now community driven all the way. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that towards the end of the video, because many people are asking about how do we select block producers and so on. So do stick around if you have those questions. But I think what I wanted to highlight is this is the biggest concern right now in terms of amount of fund. And also that, like, yeah, as you can see, $400 million per year. This is huge, and 4% inflation is too high. And this is, again, they are trying to address it, saying that they're not going to use all the funds, and they're actually trying to do a small amount of these funds initially. But this is, again, we are relying on a community, just like what happened with ECAP. So if you remember, there's a lot of FUD around. when ECAF was started, there were some problems, the way ECAF orders were not executed properly. So humans have their own way of working. The reason people trust blockchain, people trust Bitcoin is because there is no human intervention. You can trust a system where the way it is designed. Now, all these worker proposal systems and what is happening right now in EOS, while it is great, it is a very democratic way of doing things. It has a risk because there can be corruption, there can be vested interests in the way people really use these funds. So that till the community is convinced about it, we think that this should not be brought in. There are many other ways this can be supported, and I would continue to look for more details of why these funds are needed. And so I think one thing I wanted to highlight, so I have raised my points many times, so let's not go into too many details. So who are the people right now working on it? So you can see Thomas Cox. While you all know that Dan Larimer and Block.one are officially not saying anything, but in the Telegram channel, Dan has very clearly said he's against this worker proposal fund, and he wants to remove this 4% inflation. So we are trying to identify who are the people who are really behind this group. So right now the design group is Thomas Cox. He's been promoting this. I'm not sure who David Margulis is. Then is EOS Canada Josh, and we have EOS Sys, EOS Canon. A lot of block producers you can see here. They are either in China maybe, and we have some Hong Kong EOS, we have EOS Seoul. So it is a pretty wide group. I'm not saying that this is a small group of people, but I don't see a lot of other block producers who are on the top. Like we don't see EOS New York here, EOS Authority here. We don't see Liberty Block. Now we do have Liberty Block. We have, so I would like to see much bigger block producer group to say that yes, we need this right now. I think people are trying to stay away from it because of the way Dan has clearly opposed it. And I don't like this whole friction right now in the system. While these people have a point, and I want to keep this debate open, I personally am not convinced that we need this right now. So I would like to hear feedback from everybody on why you think that these funds are needed. And first of all, let us, as a community, let us define what you want, what kind of things are missing right now. And as you can see, if you see that EOS Authority is one perfect example, they have been helping right during the launch, and even after that, as a block producer, they have been helping how to recover your tokens and everything. They are creating some very interesting tools. Why we cannot take this approach? Why can't we support these block producers who are doing these tools? Same thing for Greymass, for example. So Greymass has developed an amazing wallet, and we should vote for them to earn more rewards so that they can keep doing great job. And that is my view of how this should be done, rather than creating these working groups and paying these people to develop tools. So that is how I think it's going to go. Let's see how this politics plays out. But in general, I think we need to have a debate, and that is why we are building this community, and we keep doing that discussion. So let's look at the next topic is Telos. So I think a lot of people, if you remember, this was a fork which was announced by some set of fringe block producers. And Telos is making some progress. I think it was quite because they had taken up a lot of stuff on themselves. If you remember, they had a lot of changes. They were trying to implement, like they were trying to have inverse weighted voting to reduce the weightage of whales. They were trying to do BP rotation instead of kind of 21 BPs. So there's a very, very basic system they were trying to do. So they had to make code changes. And this is something which they have been implementing. So as I said before, I'm never promoting extreme views. A lot of people just said that, oh, this is bad for the system, there should not be any forks and so on. But I think that we should be open-minded and see how this operates, because as we are all struggling, as you saw that with the work proposal, with a lot of other things, and even the BP selection is still a lot of whale activities happening there, which is not clear. We should see how this experiment goes. So there's no issue for people to come up about and create a new chain. And we need to understand that these are the things which you need to really look at. Like, this is only enabling more people, because now these block producers who are not earning any rewards, they are able to go out and create another chain and maybe create some new funds. Maybe they engage more developers. Ultimately, it is the same EOS.io, the same code base with some changes on the constitution, but ultimately the developers will be able to port application from one chain to another. So this may be a good idea for somebody who's trying to develop apps and they cannot afford it on EOS. And later on, if the EOS, the main net is more successful, they can always port their application very quickly from this place. So it's only enhancing the ecosystem. So I'm not opposed to it, but let's see how this goes. I think they are planning to launch in September with all the code changes already done, and we will keep watching how this goes. I think it's still better than having a conflict. So you creating your own fork is not in my view, is not bad. What is bad is this kind of a conflict which is happening over worker proposal fund, and we need to conclude this as soon as possible. What else? So we have been talking about politics, the forks. Let us talk about good news about eDNA. So this is Edna, you can call it, or eDNA. This was one of the airdrops I think most of you got. And this is a very interesting project. So I just wanted to spend a few minutes on this. So they are trying to do blockchain-based DNA sequencing. And what is interesting is they are talking about very, very confidential ways of processing this. So they're saying that you just need to send your sample, and you just have to use your EOS mainnet account name, which will be completely anonymous, to get your DNA sequencing done, which is a great way of using blockchain to anonymously get and store your data, which cannot be messed around with, which is securely stored, and you can own it just by using your account name. So right now they're taking reservation. You just send your one of the tokens. So if you, of course, I think most of you had more than one EOS, so you got Edna token. So you just send one token to them to reserve your place, and they can give you. You can also reserve more than one by adding your family members, and they will hold that many reservations for you, which is a great way of implementing it. So it's pretty interesting, and we are excited about such apps coming on EOS. And I hope that this really takes more and more such projects come across and make use of how this is going to happen. All right, guys. So let's go back to one of the key things before I take question and answer. So one thing which people were talking about is how do we vote? So before we go that, let's have a quick look at Blocktivity. So the activity has gone down. I think the spams are going down now, because one of the key things which happened is, again, I will go back to EOS Authority. So they have this tool for the alerts, and they now are able to filter. So when you go to the setup account alerts, you can filter the 0.0001 EOS transactions you were seeing earlier. Now you can actually filter them using their alerts, and that is one way of reducing spam. I think again, I congratulate them for this great tool they're developing. And one suggestion I think which everybody has is, why don't you, I think while they have this alert system, we would also ask them if they can send an alert to people whose vote starts to decay. I think now that they have vote decaying analysis, it's a very good tool which I think will help people to remind them that their votes are decaying and they can go and re-vote. So that will be a great addition to this alert system. So this is one recommendation we have. And let's go back to blocks.io. This is where we are going to look at the block producers. So we really like this block.io, again, developed by EOS Cafe Calgary and a Hong Kong EOS. So we always use different tools. That's a great thing about EOS. You can use tools from so many different block producers, and whatever you like. So now let's look at the block producers, where they are. So Start EOS, it's a China-based block producer. It's on the top. EOS New York, Canada, they have been doing a lot of good work in the early days of EOS. They were the very early on, like the members who came together during the launch process. Then there is a lot of other block producers coming up, EOS 42 Freedom, Liberty, Block, and some of these. So let's look at, so a lot of people have been asking us, what is your criteria for voting? So I wanted to take up this today in this live show. So if you remember, so we started as one of the channel where we wanted to share information with people about the launch process. That was our focus because there was a lot of confusion when the launch was happening. Even today, I see a lot of comments from community members of they're still struggling with understanding EOS, they're struggling with their token migration, and they're struggling with what is happening around. So we started with selecting those block producers who are doing great for bringing people on board, who are helping. So one of the biggest criteria which we have is the communities where they are helping people, where they are building tools. So if you look at, I keep highlighting EOS Authority, I keep highlighting Greymass, I highlight some of these great block producers who have been hand holding the community members who are struggling on a day-to-day basis, and we voted for them. They have always been in our voting list. Then we looked at the information creation, seeding the system. And for example, Cypherglass is one which was started creating some good content. They started promoting hardware wallets. So those are again some key concerns which community had. So there's some of the ideas we had when it started. A lot of people ask us about compliance, about a lot of other things which we are yet not convinced that they're objective metrics, because if we started with the EOS Nation tool, which was looking at the JSON file and telling which are compliant, soon we figured out that is not very reliable way. There were some concerns the way that it was a very automated system, which was not taking into account a lot of nitty-gritties. Um, again, another aspect which we look at is the geographical spread. So if you're okay, let's look at the glass. I think the tool which the Cipher Glass has done, which we like it because it shows some useful information. So we also look at how the producer nodes are spread across geographical boundaries. And that is something which is also like we try to make sure that we spread across various continents. And we give some kind of decentralization by choosing block producers across. So that's what one of the other criteria we have used. And going back to the blocks.io, I think let me look at some of the names. I think US New York has some great information posts all the way since the launch days. I think they were the earliest block producer who announced their candidature, and they have been informing the community very well. So these are some of our permanent voted list. Who else we can talk about? So definitely our goal is to, like a lot of people talk about why we are voting for block producers who are already in top 21. The reason is we still don't see much activity from, for example, the ZB or Huobi. We don't even have their location properly updated in their JSON files. We don't even have information about, like, there are a lot of things missing, and we want to boot them out. How do we boot them out? By continuously strengthening the vote of the other top 21. So if we only vote for block producers which are not in top, then we are actually helping these block producers to stay on the top. So we need to keep adding votes and make sure that these guys get drowned out. Of course, I'm not saying they're bad elements. I'm saying that they are something which we need to understand. We need to reach out. So that is another thing we have started now. So recently we added EOS Nation because we are seeing that that is one of the Western block producer who are actually going and reaching out to various communities. They are doing some community outreach in China. They are doing it in Africa. So we need those kind of more outreach, and I'm trying to participate in those. We are trying to learn what is happening. There are definitely some language barriers. There are definitely some other stuff which we need to understand. Because sometimes we just write off that there are some issues that why the Chinese block producers are not contributing, but they may be contributing locally in their communities, which we cannot see. And those are the kind of things we are trying to understand. So again, as I said, the politics and voting, this will always be controversial. So it's very difficult for me to answer that why one particular block producer is not voted versus why something is voted. All of these are basically, we are trying to figure out the best block producers in terms of geographical spread, in terms of community. One of the big criteria we look at is block producers which are accessible, you can, if you have an issue, you can reach out to them and they respond to you either in Telegram channels or anywhere, and who are participating in a dialogue, who are not just doing things like voting. Like, for example, when there is a vote for changing RAM, some block producers are not even voting, who are producing, who are in top 21. So either they have to select, say yes or no, but some of them are not voting at all. So we don't want those block producers in the system who are not really being open about what they're doing. And those kind of things right now, these are perception based. So we spend, within my team, we are spending some time on analyzing this. We are actually reaching out to block producers individually, as well as we are getting contacted by them. So thanks to all of you, because now we have a pretty good system. Like, we have almost 800 plus people who are voting with us. So let me go back and check again where we are in terms of the proxies. And as you can see, it's going to be updated with the registered account. So we are 861 proxied accounts. So people realize it, and we are seeing a lot of interest from block producers to show us what they're doing. They reach out to us, and it's very difficult for us. Like, we are a very small team. I'm like not able to spend that much time on everything, but we are trying our best. Our goal is to just continuously support those block producers who are really helpful in the community, who are building tools, because that's what is needed right now. In future, as the system requirements become more and more important, as the if we see any issues in the way blockchain is operating, we will continuously keep adjusting our criteria. So right now, let me clarify, while we do want every block producer to be compliant, we don't have an objective criteria to check the compliance. We did look at all the efforts. For example, there was a effort to create a compliance table. There was an effort to do some tools. Most of those, based after our review, we found that these were not a very, very good way. While it was a good initiative, while it really sorts out some of the issues, they're not 100% clear on whether that is sufficient, because it's all about JSON file, it's all about what you're updating, but you cannot really check the motive of people with that. So what you can clearly see is a community outreach. You can see people who are really helping you and helping a small token holder, who are helping expand your ecosystem. And that is something we can clearly see. And that's how we are trying to vote and help the community build up. And as I said, we are open to feedback, and we will always be improving in how we choose this voting system, because we see that more and more people are now voting with us, and we want to make sure that this system keeps improving. So now, again, let me highlight if people who joined late. So some people have been asking questions that why do we have to change the voter proxy? So even though you select change voter proxy, you do not have to really change. The refreshing of your proxy can be done very simply by entering our name again. So please don't confuse it that while you have to update your proxy every week, you do not necessarily need to change it. You just go in Greymass or any other voting tool. You just say that you set the proxy again. It takes very, very limited time. Like, I did it in 10 seconds for some of my accounts. So you can go and do this very easily. So do refresh your proxies regularly so that the voting decay can really be contained and we can keep making the difference. So these are some of the topics I wanted to talk about, folks. So please feel free to ask questions. We have quite a few people watching this show right now, around 56 people I can see right now. So do tell us what is in your mind. Overall, as I said, the market is looking better today. We hope that it sustains over weekend, because during the low volumes on weekends, we see some drop usually if there is no follow-up, or sometimes the big traders, if it is institutional people, they may just go on weekend and we start seeing a down move. So we hope that doesn't happen. Specifically, I think altcoins are doing better, and EOS has again above $4-5. So this is a great sign. And I think we need to hope that people start seeing the value right now, because now the market cap is pretty low, the hype is gone, and there are a lot of great news is happening. Like a lot of institutional interest is continuing to build up. There is no lack of interest in terms of investments. So I don't see why this cannot be a bottom. While technically we are still in bear market, I think we have not really broken out convincingly, and that will not happen for a long time, because even if we move above this particular big resistance area around 6,800 or $6,850, we have to cross a 200-day moving average, which is continuously dipping down now, and it is sitting around $8,000. So it's going to be a challenge. I think 2018 has been a challenging year for people, while there was a great ride on 2017. And we just wish that people are realizing that this is not a time to sell. This is not a time to exit when you are seeing some low, real low prices here. So, of course, we don't want to give you financial advice here. We don't want to tell you that you should go and buy. You should only risk what you can risk. Don't try to be adventurous, because you never know the market in short term. While we are convinced the future of blockchain, the future of Bitcoin, EOS, we are very much convinced about it. But in short term, nobody knows where's the bottom. And it's a great chance right now. We are seeing a kind of nice reversal here. So we hope that it sustains. So are there any other question, guys? Let's look at the feed. And I see one question about EOS links. Yes, we have heard about this EOS links wallet. To be frank, we have not really tried it, so we don't have any particular comments. We are still waiting for community feedback. One thing, okay, I wanted to talk about is there have been a Meet.1 token, which was again using an app to convert your Meet.1 tokens from Ethereum to EOS. I don't have that page open. I would like to understand if people have been really moving their tokens, because I see that they only have an Android app right now. They don't have iOS app, and I don't know how people are really going to migrate. Then there's some other questions about people were asking about whether I have multiple accounts. Can I do that kind of transfer? So we will investigate that, and maybe we'll do another video on that. So a lot of people are confused about the various airdrops which came on Ethereum, and they need to migrate to EOS. And I really struggle to understand, why do you need to claim or do anything funny to transfer your tokens? Because the Genesis snapshot tokens which they delivered, they could very easily transfer them directly to EOS accounts. So anyway, I think we will keep investigating those, while the original question was about the mobile wallet, the Lynx wallet. So we have not tried it, but I think we believe that right now we have not heard any issues, while I think we will wait for some more time for people to try it out before we can say that it's a good enough wallet to use. So there's a comment from somebody who in the community who says that he has tried it. So Marine Stu, I don't know exactly what your name is, but you're saying that you have tried it and it only cost 0.85 pound, which is interesting. So when you say that it cost only less than a pound, can you confirm how much RAM that account gave you? Because even the RAM cost today, let's go and have a look at the RAM cost. It should be around 0.15 EOS. So if you're looking for 4K, it's 0.6 EOS, which itself will be around $0.8. So no, sorry, it will be 1.133. So it's $0.693, which is around $3 or so. So I'm going to be very interested in knowing if they are creating an account for you for less than $1. How is that possible with the RAM itself costing around $3? So definitely let us know if they're subsidizing it. It's a great thing. Maybe you should try out and create a free account. But I don't know if that is possible with the RAM price around, I think it should cost around $3 just for the RAM right now. All right. So, and I think block.one, as we already talked about at the start of the video, that block.one has announced that, and Dan had already confirmed that they will be providing free accounts. Now, I don't know whether they are talking about wallet here. So he's very cryptic here. If your users sign up through our coming service, he says our coming service, then you don't have to pay for their accounts. So that means that they are talking about free accounts. And as far as I remember, this was originally planned with their iOS wallet. And I think the Links wallet, as I understand, is available on both iOS and Android. The Me.one wallet was, I think, available only on Android. So all these things are, I think, going to be interesting because there are a lot of wallets coming. And I would definitely rely on the block.one wallet, which is Dan is recommending. Uh, that is something which I think we should all wait for, because that will give you a free account, as well as I'm sure they must have done a lot of security audits on that. And the RAM prices people are talking about, the RAM prices are crashing because of some of the comments from Dan on the Telegram. I would go back to that. So he's talking about increasing the RAM dramatically. So I don't know what he means by that, because already the proposal has been approved and the RAM has been increasing. So if you go back to the RAM site, so originally we started with 64 gig, and already I think the total RAM is 69.24 gig. So it's continuously increasing while the real usage is not going up. So I think the RAM prices are coming down. It's 0.133. Even now, if you see, there is 64% RAM, which is actually bought, while I don't think even 10% of the RAM is being really used. So this is mostly speculation market even now. So I think even this 0.133 may not sustain if the speculators start exiting. But I think overall, in future, when the more and more apps come, I'm sure this RAM usage will go up. So it all depends upon the supply. The pricing will depend upon supply rather than how much usage will happen, because usage will definitely increase. And I would love to know more about what Dan meant here in terms of dramatic increase in the next 12 months, because as of today, the RAM is already targeted to double in next 12 months. That means it will become 128 gig using the current increase, which is already approved by B block producers and which is already happening. So that is the status of RAM. I don't think that it's a bad thing for EOS ecosystem that RAM prices are coming down. And if you remember, when RAM was shooting all the way up, I had recommended people not to trade it anymore, and it was a great time. I think we did cover in early days of EOS launch why it was a great opportunity to trade. But now I don't think this is a great idea, because now I think it's becoming more of a, like, speculators are exiting because usage is not going up. And I would love to see more and more apps coming which are going to use RAM. And already it's not cheap to use RAM. So it's a kind of a balancing act. We didn't want the RAM to be too cheap, because then most of the RAM, which is a limited resource, would have been occupied by some really crappy apps who would have utilized all the RAM, and the real good developers who are developing some interesting apps in future, they would not have got any RAM. So if you look now in hindsight, it's not a bad thing that RAM trading was enabled. It got the price to be little high. There was some kind of a entry barrier for people to really optimize RAM rather than going ahead and just writing apps to block all the RAM they wanted. So always there are pros and cons for this system. So I agree. I think some people are struggling in terms of airdrops and so on, but those things, once you have a problem, they get solved. So Johnny, thanks for your comment about that you got in early. So I think you are just, it's all about how much risk you took. So don't thank me. I think thank yourself for being adventurous. When nobody knew how high RAM would go, you took the risk and you jumped in. We also did some RAM trading in my personal account. I did some, but I'm a very conservative trader. I don't go so aggressive. I just exited pretty quickly. I didn't know how long to hold. So again, people who held on for long and they made good profits, I'm sure they must be happy. But speculators who carried on for very long, it's very, very risky thing to do. And as you saw, we were already highlighting that this supply can go up anytime, so be very careful, and that's what happened. And even now, I think 64% is very high number. I don't think that speculators will like it, that this is not going up anymore, and you can have further crash in the prices. So I would say that this can really dip even lower if it doesn't recover soon, if there is no real usage. And if Dan keeps commenting like this, so again, I would highlight this. So he's talking about further increase in RAM. I think this is another reason why this prices can come down. So let us not count on prices going up anytime soon if something new comes up from Dan. And this is exactly why it is uh, you should not really trade something which you cannot control. So in early days, it was easy because it was too cheap. We knew that speculators will jump in. So that's why we recommended at that time you can try it. But as soon as it became too expensive, I never recommended you to trade RAM. And that is still my standing. Nobody should try out at these levels because it can always be like RAM can always be added, and the Bancor algorithm will really bring the price down very fast. All right, guys. So this is on the RAM. What else in your mind? Do let us know. I think we are trying to keep up with all that is happening on EOS. I'm sure there are a lot of other news which we are not covering. So do highlight us. Do come to our Telegram channel. You can click this link to get invited. And what will happen is that uh, you can always raise issues. You can bring topics for us to discuss, and we will try to cover and respond as much as we can. Our goal is to bring this community to a point where we can have discussions around what is happening in EOS, how to make sense of it. Again, I would like to highlight, we are not into promoting any one view because it is a democratic chain. I see a lot of friction between groups who are trying to achieve one result or other. I would like to say that why I may have some personal opinions, which I will mention. I would still encourage people to debate and come to a conclusion, because there are always pros and cons of any system. So do not give up on things. Do not give up on the rules right now. I think while I mostly tend to agree with Dan Larimer because he has seen all of it. He's the reason I think most of us originally invested in EOS. So we try to understand what when he says something. I see nowadays there are a lot of people who are creating new groups of power within EOS, and I see that there's some friction happening between the two groups. So again, means I may have some personal liking about one topic or other. I think please include get involved in the dialogue and do not form your opinions without really going through the details. That's my appeal to everybody. And let's spend a few more minutes. I think today I have some more time. So let's look at what is going on. So when is renting EOS coming? So as I mentioned, I think in previous videos, this was a question in everybody's mind. I think it will take some time because right now it's just a proposal. It's not implemented as a code. So this will come in some of the updates very soon whenever Dan Larimer finishes with it. And Block.1 releases a new version of EOS. So that is one thing which is needed. Once the code is ready, then I think either it will need a referendum or it will need at least it will need a block producers voting to accept any change, because this is a big change in the system contract, and that will definitely need an approval by 15 block producers out of 21. And that usually either there is a referendum system which is being put in place. So I don't know yet whether this kind of a change for renting EOS, whether it needs a referendum. I believe it should not need a referendum, because just like the RAM increase happened in the system contract, they can always do it with block producers voting. But I think once the referendum system is in place, maybe that can also be used to approve this EOS renting. Overall, I don't see a reason why it should not be approved, because it's a great idea. It will help EOS token holders in all ways. It's a win-win situation. There's nothing wrong with the renting EOS system. So it's all about when it is ready, and it's the usual process which will take like in terms of approving, I don't know yet how block producers are really putting these things together, because I haven't seen a single place where all the topics which are up for voting are available. So I would appeal, if the block producers who are watching this show, please let us know if there is some way where community can see what are, like, for example, there are a lot of videos which some people are posting, like EOS Detroit was doing a good job of live telecasting the block producer calls, but those are very long calls. I don't think a lot of people have time to watch 1 or 2 hours of calls every 3 days or every week. So there has to be some summary. That is something which is still missing in EOS. So we would like to appeal to the community, to the block producers specifically, to create some sort of top of the mind issues, what block producers, especially the top 21, who are really responsible for running this system, they should go and create that kind of a dashboard or some kind of a notice board of what is being discussed, what is up for voting, what are the things block producers are working on. So that is one request and appeal to the block producer community. What other messages we are seeing? So again, Marinus 2, he has confirmed that he got a 3.89 kilobyte account for less than a pound, which is great. I think that means that EOS Links is subsidizing the users. So do go and try it out. And they are trying to use a wallet which is protected by your phone's security. So thanks again for updating all this information. We would definitely go ahead and try it out. One thing you should do with all these hardware wallets, so remember, when you create a hardware wallet, you're creating a new key pair. So you do not need to go import your keys. You do not risk your existing funds. You can always try out with a small amount of funds to use new wallets. That's one recommendation we have. Don't try to be adventurous with new wallets, but once we have more feedback from community, so we should see how this goes in terms of these new wallets which are coming along. But I think it's a great thing if more and more mobile wallets come in. That will even increase adoption, because a lot of people struggle with PCs, but everybody's is able to use mobile wallets. So that's a great news. I think thanks again for updates. We are happy that more and more mobile wallets are coming. So Johnny has another comment. Proxy decay should be foremost on our agenda. We need power to make change. So Johnny, if you, yeah, that is exactly what we did. I think we did start the video with that. So we keep reminding people to check their decay and to make sure that we can reduce this proxy decay. And overall, I think in general, we are seeing more and more people coming together, assigning proxies. So while decay is an issue, that is still a slow decay. We are already raising this concern. So we already created a video. We have been raising this. We are trying to create an appeal to change the proxy vote decay rules. But I think these kind of discussions will keep happening. But I think as a token holder, you can do is you can refresh your proxy. Simply just go and reassign the proxy. It doesn't take much time, and we already talked about this in previously. But keep checking what is happening with your account, because your account, if you really want to make a difference, you should be checking yourself. And as we just appeal to EOS authority, I think they have all the pieces in place. If they can just add this vote decay to the EOS alerts, that would really make a difference for people who will get to know whenever their account starts decaying, their voting start decaying. Thank you. All right, what else? Are there any other questions? What do you think of voting from an app that uses your fingerprint or face scan to open? Could make basically one account, one vote. Uh, I think one account, one vote is not a great idea for many reasons. Because if I mean, I'm not really a fan of one account, one vote, because people who are invested more into EOS, they should have better say. Like for example, if I have 100 EOS versus a person who just buys one EOS for $5, I don't want his vote to count the same. That's why it's called proof of stake, because I have more stake in it. That is one way of thinking about it. The second thing is, it becomes very difficult to control, even if it is one account, one vote. What about people who are in, like, for example, China is a country, so I have nothing against them. So, but remember, I still like many BPs, so people just take my comments wrongly. But I'm just taking an example because China has a very high population, and you can have a lot of people whom a block producer can give one EOS just for voting for themselves. This is not a great way. I think whales who have vested interests, if they can get good rewards just by giving free accounts and free phones to people who have nothing to do with EOS, then they can easily do it versus a real genuine investor like you and me. We cannot do that because we may have only 100 or 1000 EOS versus these whales who have millions of EOS, and they will not lose anything by buying thousands of votes just by giving one EOS to somebody. So I can give you many arguments of why this is not great idea of one account, one vote. I'm not in favor of that. I think this is more about the current system. I'm not actually against it. Currently, whatever is in place, we just need to keep refining it, keep improving it, versus trying to change something drastic like one account, one vote. So there's another question: when DEX exchanges? So guys, there are a lot of decentralized exchanges already there on EOS. Of course, there are not many EOS tokens which are worth trading because most of the airdrops are valued very low. It's very early stage for most of the projects, so you don't really need to go and risk your big money into it unless you really believe in it. But the exchanges are there. We covered some of them in some of the videos. So one of them was this DEX EOS. Then I heard about the new DEX. There are a lot of other DEX exchanges. But I think EOS Finex, which is a Bitfinex initiative, is coming soon. Then Block.one has announced the decentralized exchange. So a lot of them are coming, and many of them are already operational. Chains, which is started the earliest exchange, decentralized exchange. So Chains is available. So have you heard when Steam 2.0 is coming? So Steam 2.0 is, again, this is all Block.one. I'm hoping that there will be some announcement in the London Hackathon because Dan and Brendan Bloomer, all these people are going to be attending there. So let's see what comes out of there. So keep up the good work. Thanks for all you do. I'd like to see some form of poll voting mechanism on your site that would allow people to tell you who would they like to see you include in your proxy. So John, I think thanks for your comment. I think we can start doing that. So remember, as I said in part of the video earlier, we are doing a lot of analysis of our own, and we are not happy that we don't have objective criteria right now. We are just looking at all the block producers who are doing a great job. You are saying EOS Asia is left out. If you check our latest list, EOS Asia is one of the block producer we are voting for. So that is one thing. Let me clarify to you. We have not left them off. We like the tools they are developing. But the other thing is that you are talking about giving input. So let's say if all the 800 people give us inputs on block producers, and if you give 10 block producers, we don't have the manpower, or we will not be able to analyze why we should add them to our list. If you have the capability to research yourself, we always recommend the people to vote themselves. We are not looking to become a proxy whale. We are not looking for people to keep adding themselves to our proxy voting. So we are 861 people. These people have come to us because they don't have time to research. They are not really interested in understanding who is a better block producer. And we are trying to do, because we are trying to vote for 30 block producers, as you can see here, and we are spending time on it. Now, if you think that you can really research yourself, and if you want to recommend, why don't you just go vote yourself? That is one of the things, because that is the best thing. All of us want people to get involved and really go and vote. We don't want to become a proxy whale. Let me repeat that. All right. So what else, guys? What do you think about Steam 2.0? We already talked about it. Chains.com/trade offers exchange. Okay, these are just the comments. So I think we are running out of time, guys. So let us go and conclude this video. It was a great show. I think we covered a lot of EOS news. And thanks again for a lot of participation. This is why we love doing this live YouTube shows, because we can interact with you instead of the comments on doing this kind of like YouTube comments and replying to that. It's not that easy. Sometimes we don't really understand what you mean, but keep them coming. Keep engaging on our YouTube channel. Keep engaging on Telegram. So do let us know what you are interested in. As I had mentioned in few videos back, we are going to soon create more and more opportunities to interact, maybe some sort of meetups, and we are looking for volunteers who can do meetups locally in your area. So do let us know, send us comments. You can always send us email, which is available, or you can send us on Telegram. You can send us comments on there. So do let us know how you would like to see the EOS community evolve. That's our goal. We are only looking for building knowledge base where people understand what is happening and not really wondering what is really driving EOS. And we really believe in this technology. We really believe that one day when this bear market is over, we will see much higher prices on EOS. And that is what we are really trying to educate you about. And do participate, do vote, and send us your comments. Thank you again. We have okay, so let me have a quick look at the comments. I want to do a meetup in San Francisco Bay Area. Guys, I'm based in San Francisco Bay Area, so send me a comment. I think that is the first thing we can do. I think San Francisco Bay Area is something we can definitely host a meetup very soon. So Chi, I think thanks for your comment. Do send me an email or send a telegram, and we can chat and talk about these meetups. So, and on one more thing is we are trying to do more and more developer outreach. We are as we talked about our website, we are still developing. Our goal is to have maybe more and more people developing on EOS. So let us, if any of you are a developer, if you're interested in developing for EOS, either you're a web developer for writing web apps, mobile apps, or you are interested in smart contract development and so on, please reach out to us, and we are trying to figure out how we can really form this community and seed this kind of development work on EOS. So with that, I would like to end today's show. Thanks again for joining, and let's keep going and participating in EOS. Have a great weekend, guys, and to participate, as I say, on our Telegram channel, and let us know what we can do better. Thank you. Bye-bye.